was remarkable. And then obviously he had to go down one knee because it kicked in.
Most of these guys ain't shit. I mean, they all claim to be going to be world champions and all the rest of it. Laugh out loud. Why don't you two scared pussies just fight each other in August and I'll fight someone who can really fight? Say they have all the documents on both sides ahead of a messy split between Ruiz and his wife. Okay guys, welcome to another episode and a podcast here of Fighters Talk TV. My good pal Max, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm all good. How are you, Andy?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. The thing is, I mean, I'm trying out all this new technology, so we're going to get you better cameras and shit, Max, so that we can deal with all this. And it's all going absolutely peaked on and wrong. So, yeah. So, anyway, guys, we're going to be sort of talking today about some of the up-and-coming fights that are coming up, hopefully this week, and some of the news that's just been out. So I'm going to hit straight off the bat, and I know it's a thing you want to talk about. You want to talk about the Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis fight that just happened, and there's lots of people coming out. Chavez is saying he threw the fight. Also, Andy Ruiz is saying he's through the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez is saying he ain't ever going to watch another one of his fights again, and all the rest of it. But I wanted to throw a spanner in the works here. Now, I don't know if you remember the fight itself. When he come to the end, his trainer said, is it the ribs? Clearly heard. Yeah. There's a speculation, and I think even Ryan Garcia has come out and said that he had a spy in the camp, Gervonta Davis, knowing that he'd got a cracked rib. What's your take on it?
Well, first I'd like to say, to anyone who thinks he threw that fight, he obviously never had a devastating body blow before. Trust me, they hurt, right? And for him to even get up after that and walk off was remarkable. And then obviously he had to go down one knee because it kicked in, right? And you've got to realise the power was generated from such a short blow is phenomenal. You know, you've got to understand that shit hurts.
Julio Cesar Chavez says he's not going to watch any more of Ryan Garcia's fights after the way he lost to Gervonta Tank Davis on Saturday night, right? He says, right, this is his quote. He says, the body shot that knocked Ryan down in the 7th round wasn't even a punch. Now, you can't argue with someone with 107 fights, 86 KOs. He says he doesn't understand why Ryan went down. It really doesn't. He doesn't know why he did at least attempt to get back up and continue fighting. Now, I'm going to put this caveat out there. I've been on the receiving end of lots of body shots because literally I've got a big body. It's not hard to miss, right? But more importantly than that, if he was carrying a rib injury and he had a cracked rib, the pain levels are second only. This is coming to the part where he couldn't breathe, and that was even mentioned. If you watch if you go back to some of the fight at the end, is it your rib? Is it your rib?
Yeah, but even Ryan Garcia actually says himself that he wasn't feeling 100%, but regardless, he signed a contract. He was there to fight, and he did fight, and I thought it was a good fight in the end. He was just unlucky. He just took that devastating blow. You know what I mean? You've got to remember, if you look at the early stages of that fight, old Tank was hugging him. I thought it was a wrestling match in the first couple of rounds.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was. It certainly was interesting. I mean, the thing is, if he has, I keep going back to it. If you've got a cracked rib, listen, I don't think any fighter actually comes through training camp completely unscathed. They all talk bollocks. So literally, you're worn out. You normally, the way it goes is you normally stop training camp like a week before. All the sparring and everything stops. Your body's got time to rest up. The problem is as well, I think, the rehydration clause that Gervonta Davis placed onto Ryan Garcia is a killer. And I've had a look at that fight again. Okay, I went and rewatched it, and when I said in our last show that I think that he should have, swung that right hand a little bit more, I actually thought I'd change my sort of way I would have sat there and looked at it. It's all right to be retrospective, isn't it? What I'm thinking is that I would have sort of been saying to him, use your jab more, just stick it in his face all night, stick and move, and throw the right hand occasionally. You're really, really fast, so you can get that jab in and out all the time. But the problem is, for me, these fighters, when they come in and they're that damaged inside, I mean, obviously this is a thing about money and all sorts, isn't it? So
yeah, because even at the end of the fight, what did that reporter ask Tank? You keeping the money? You keeping that bet on? And he went, no. that's a real gentleman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Getting back to the fight, you got to think Garcia was a taller person than Tank, and that Tank was getting low, so a lot of punches were being missed by Garcia. And like you said, he wasn't using the jab, wasn't using it enough like he would normally have done. And you know, I feel like I think he was frustrated because he was missing the punches when he wasn't normally would do that, if you know what I mean. And then he just unlucky, he caught that body blow, and that was the end of the fight, basically.
But what do you think about the rehydration clause? I mean, he's not allowed to rehydrate his body exactly right. So if you've ever had to, I was always a heavyweight, so I never had to worry about cutting weight.
I think that's got to be like sort of dangerous, isn't it? Wasn't that the problem with Eubank Jr. and Conor Ben?
Well, I mean, it was a catch weight fight, and I think, you know, I tell you what, that would sort of twist my sweet. I think sometimes the danger involved with a bigger fighter going down to a smaller fighter's weight is real dangerous when you're not allowed to rehydrate the body. Remember. So in the Conor Ben and Gervonta Davis situation, their body's fully hydrated, athlete, 100% ready to go. Okay, let's say both of them had great camps. The problem is when your body's drained, you know, you can't rehydrate to a weight more than 12 hours before the fight and all the rest of it. You know, with weight comes power in 90% of the time, right? So when you're not allowed to have that, he's going to feel tired. His legs aren't going to feel the same. He's not going to feel the benefit of training naturally for a natural weight class of fight. Same problem with Chris Eubank Jr. And Chris Eubank Sr. was absolutely right to stand in there and say fucking no. Absolutely no. You know, the health of the fighters do come first. I just think that sometimes what really bothers me about some of these clauses they sit in, remember, it's all about trying to get that one over on the opponent, not just in terms of physically but psychologically. You know,
but what I did notice in the fight, Garcia and Tank, was I actually noticed the weakness in Ryan Garcia's legs. You know what I mean? Throughout that fight, and he weren't after the knockdown he got. It was throughout the fight, and I think he was genuinely weak in that fight.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but we'll wait and see what happens. I mean, I think he needs a few more fights. I think Garcia's got to go up a weight division, I think, and I think, you know, you've got to accept that he's not going to be able to get down to that.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say one thing, when Greg in his changing room said about the rematch without the rehydration clause in it.
I think it would have been a different fight. Yeah, I think it would be a different fight.
Yeah, definitely. If he hasn't got all these regulations in it, I think it will be a different fight. And hopefully it does go back on and Garcia shows him no respect and goes for it.
Yeah, I think so. Right, I'll tell you what, I want to bring up another subject. It's come up today, it's been announced. You know, Liam Smith, Chris Eubank Jr. rematch. Revenge or repeat. Revenge or repeat. Now, listen, everybody sits there and goes on about Chris Eubank Jr. being an arrogant arse, right? Yeah. And I think to a certain degree is, but that's part of his persona. I'm a real big fan of Chris Eubank Jr. You know, I've met him. I've met his father a few times. You know, lots of people don't like him, but I really like the guy. Okay, I've never met Liam Smith. Bit of pleasure, but I do like him. I can't help but like the way he fights and how hard he fights. But that being said, I mean, he was pretty much taken apart in the last rounds of that last fight they had, wasn't he? Yeah,
definitely. I think he was just picked apart throughout. But then, was he mentally prepared for that fight? Particularly in what had gone on beforehand, like with the dropping of weight and the Conor Ben and all that.
Well, and he'd gone through pretty much hell to drop all that weight. He was really, really skinny, unnaturally skinny, really dangerously skinny.
I think Eubank Jr. looked absolutely skinny. He did in them photos, like prior to the fight he had with Liam Smith. I think he looked really skinny compared to what he used to look like. Dropping down all that weight ain't no good. Like you're saying, his father had the right to sort of step in and say, no, it's safe.
You know, I'm quite looking forward to the fight, I have to be said. But, I mean, I think Eubank Jr. has gone on record to say he has to actually win the fight. He has to avenge the loss. Of course he does. Liam Smith says he's actually altered the mind and the spirit of Eubank. And you know what? he was stopped for the first time. Let's have it right. Let's not make it into a bigger mess than it needs to be. I mean, I can't help but like both these fighters. I really, really can't. I like, the Smith family got a real big legacy. June 17th. Really looking forward to that fight. Really, really looking forward to it on Sky.
Yeah,
I think
it's going to be a different fight, obviously, and it's going to be quite explosive. And I'm feeling Eubank's going to school him this time, because I think he took him a little bit lightly.
I think he did, and I think sometimes he might want to prove a point. Do you know what I mean? And a desperate man's a dangerous man, especially in this.
I think if he's going to, if this Conor Ben Eubank ever happens, Eubank needs to win this next fight.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think he does. I think he needs to come back, and then it could be obviously Smith Eubank 3 or Eubank Smith 3. If it's one apiece, you've got to take the third and
yes, definitely,
and just sort of go along with that. Okay, so let's talk about something else then, because I wanted to bring up. So you got Nate Diaz fighting Jake Paul, right? So you got Nate Diaz, and there's been a bit of problems, because obviously Nate Diaz has managed to get himself in a little bit of trouble and strangle someone outside of a club, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's hilarious, because I don't know if you've seen it, but it all kicked off inside, and had to get dragged out. And I think the fella bit off a bit more than he could chew and got choked out. But then did he do that on purpose?
I don't know. Apparently he was a Logan Paul lookalike, wasn't he? Named Rodney Peterson, got himself choked out by Nate Diaz. I mean, the fact of the matter is, the fact of the matter is, you got KSI has now said, right? KSI says, I'm going to step in if Nate can't make the fight. These are two YouTube stars. I have to say, Jake Paul's growing on me a little bit. I have to say, I think he's been a bit humbled, if I'm honest, by the old Tommy Fury, fight, and I think he's probably going to be a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more humble in what he actually does. And of course, Jake Paul.
I will admit, when Jake Paul first came around, I thought, what a twat. Right, but now my opinion has changed on him. I think, he's worked really hard. Right, people might look at him and go, "Oh, you're a Disney Star channel," but he is rising up through the ranks, right? And he's winning. And he went up against a proper boxer from a proper fighting family, as they call themselves, Tommy Fury, and he went toe to toe with him all the way through. And if he's this a mug, he wouldn't have done that to a proper fighter. And in my eyes, I think Jake Paul has proved himself to be a proper fighter now in the ring.
Yeah, I think he has. I think that fight against Tommy Fury. I mean, I have to say, Tommy Fury, I don't think is the real deal. I think he's a proper fighter, and I've got a lot of respect for him and his family. But I don't think I'm yet to see something that's pedigree. Do you know what I mean? I'm yet to see a cruiserweight world champion. I don't think he is. Do you know what I mean? I think that at the moment, Tommy Fury as a person, I mean, I quite like him. A nice fella, nice family man now, and he got a kid in that.
Tommy Fury looks too much like a model than a fighter.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. A few more.
Not the ring.
Yeah, a few more fights with a few other people, and he might not look quite the model that he looks like now. And I mean, we all look at him and think, bastard, he's looking that great, and the rest of it. He works hard for it. Nobody's going to say anything about it. I mean, fair play to him for the Jake Paul thing.
Tommy Fury's got it all. He's tall. He's got the blue eyes. He's got the body. He's got the dark hair. He's good looking. He's got the tan skin. I ain't jealous of nothing, all right? What you say, anything?
Well, you don't have to be, but I am. But I mean, talking about it, so KSI says, well, I'll go in there, I'll back you up to Jake Paul. Jake Paul goes, great, I accept you as a backup, fight at £185, no rehydration clauses, stay in shape, and we'll give you a call if needed. Thanks, buddy, for being so humble and committed. I really like that answer from Jake Paul. Do you know what I mean? I really like it. Yeah. It's no, I'm going to smash his face in. However, KFI says, well, if that means Jake won't have an opponent for August, then I'll gladly come in as a replacement after I KO Jay Fournier in May. What's going to happen if Jay Fournier sticks KSI on his arse? Do you know what I mean? It's just Jake's going to sit there and go, "Oh, mate, really?"
I mean, who was KSI even fought? I think, did he fight Nate Robinson, do I believe? Was that a basketball player?
To be honest, I'll be really honest with you. I'm not a big YouTube fan, right? I'm not a big YouTube fighter fan.
No, nor am I. I'm just sort of catching on with all this, like the last sort of, I don't know, 6-8 months sort of thing. And I never even heard of KSI before he come onto YouTube or he joined forces with Logan Paul. You know, I've never even heard of him.
I'll tell you what, it's quite funny because Nate Diaz's response to their two, bromance was, laugh out loud, why don't you two scared pussies just fight each other in August and I'll fight someone who can really fight?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Nate Diaz, mate, he's been around the block. He's been fighting over 20 years, right? And I remember he was 16, bare knuckle fighting geezers. You know what I mean? He's game. And so is his brother. You know, they are forced to be reckoned with. And he might have sort of retired from the UFC, but what a fucking gym.
I'll tell you what really bugs me about this YouTube fighter stuff, and like we talked about Jake Paul coming back into, he's actually really proving something to himself now, and I think he is. But what really bugs me is you know, the fact that most of these guys ain't shit. Do you know what I mean? They all claim to be going to be world champions and all the rest of it. I mean, didn't Jake Paul say he wanted to fight Canelo or something not so long ago? I mean, there'd be a Jake Paul-sized hole at the back of the arena after he's finished punching his fucking head in, wouldn't there?
I don't know. On the night of the Jake Paul-Tommy Fury fight, Cole Frock. I don't know if Jake Paul said something about him, but that man was gunning for him. Like, he said, I'll come out of retirement and I'll
slap him about. He said it. I've watched him punch. He couldn't punch the top of a rice pudding, wasn't it? I was like laughing about that.
Listen, when Cole Fox says he's gonna come and have a fight, you know, you got to question yourself. Did I fuck up? Yeah, I did.
I'll tell you, it's quite interesting. Obviously, what's going on the way. Do you know what I mean? I'm really, really impressed with how the fights have been recently, and I can't say enough praises for both Rakhmonov and of course the Joe Cordina fight. I've been talking about that one for God knows how long. I was really impressed.
I'd like to say that is fight of the year so far.
For me, I think it was.
Last match. Yeah,
I certainly think so.
Listen, you're looking at 36 minutes for slugging it out, and like that's a long time fighting someone.
Yeah, mate, you know.
And you know, punching someone and getting punched continuously for 36 minutes. Wow, that's amazing, I think.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I just sat there and I in total amazement, really. I was really impressed by it. Really impressed.
Look, you think look at the speed them two were fighting at from round 1 to round 12, right? And that they were quick. And then if you go back a week to who fought last week? Is it Joyce, wasn't it?
Yeah, Joe Joyce, yeah. Against Zhang.
Yes, look how slow their punches were, and like you can see the punches coming from a mile off. You know what I mean? And they was just slow. I know they're probably 7 stone heavier, but still very slow all the way through. And I prefer the lighter weights because I think they're so quick and they're devastating in their punches and that.
Joe Joyce is just so robotic. He just kept his head so far still. I mean, you could just punch it off. Do you know what I mean? It's just that ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why that fight ended in 6-7 rounds.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it got boxed up by a better fighter again. He's going on and wants to challenge Tyson Fury. You know, that's how confident he was after that fight.
So, okay, let's move on to something else I want to talk about, right? I want to talk about a possible fight between Tyson Fury and Andy Ruiz. Now, that there's rumours around that is off. And it's because that Andy Ruiz Jr. is facing a lawsuit for domestic abuse. Now, I don't care who you are out there. Now, when it's bad enough that men slap women around in real life, okay? Not real life, but, in serious, when they're not professional athletes like this guy. But, and so I'm going to read a quick statement. So, a lawsuit is against the number 2 contender, Ruiz, could swiftly halt proceedings. TMZ, so if you're aware of who they are, say they have all the documents on both sides ahead of a messy split between Ruiz and his wife. She's filed a domestic abuse case in San Diego on April 6th, right? In it, she alleges that former unified world champion Ruiz sexually, physically and psychologically abused her, and after that made her feel like she had to walk on eggshells around him during their romance. Now, because of that, Andy Ruiz, as you will remember from Mike Tyson, he wasn't allowed in the UK after the Desiree Washington rape conviction, if you remember that. And because of that, he could be stopped from entering the UK as the legal proceedings continue. Fury's already in training for a fight and could be forced to look elsewhere, potentially to Joe Joyce's contra Zhilei Zhang, right? That's come from the World Boxing News. Now, I think, this... If you noticed, after the Anthony Joshua first fight, right, something got in Ruiz's head. Ruiz thought, I'm the Don, I'm the daddy, I've just won. We can sit here and argue whether, Anthony Joshua was feeling well that night. It didn't look right to me. I said it when he came out to my brother-in-law.
Joshua got clumped in the side of the head and didn't know where the fuck he was, so that's why he lost.
Yeah, but he got clumped as well from, I think, a heavier puncher in Klitschko, and he knew where he was. So I'm not necessarily sort of saying that he got clocked a couple of times in that, but he dropped Ruiz in the 3rd round as well. The problem I have with it is that went to Ruiz's head. Then he went partying. He weighed heavier on the second fight than he did the first fight, and Joshua... whether it's good or bad, and we can argue this in a minute, Joshua outboxed him. Right? Yeah. Now, I want to say, if these things are about Ruiz, then he should never be in this sport again, right? Because at the end of the day, when you stand there in the top of professional fighting, professional boxing, you're being held to a standard. He was the first ever Mexican heavyweight champion, right? First ever. Look where Tyson Fury had a problem, okay? He reached the top of the tree, everything got to his head, he suddenly blown up, 28 stone in weight. It just his life was in absolute tatters.
Listen, he went from sort of being an average Joe to
megastar,
the biggest sports star in the world, sort of overnight. And he did lose the plot. He went mentally stir crazy.
Yeah,
he did, and obviously it took him a few years to sort of come back down again.
But also, you never saw or heard of Tyson Fury attacking Paris. Do you know what I mean? But now you've got this guy's got a lawsuit on his hands, and I mean, I know that, I take my hat off to anyone going through it.
I mean, with the lawsuit against Ruiz, like, is it a legitimate one? Is it of the woman that's after his money? You've got to look at things like that, unless there's like blatant evidence, video evidence showing what he's allegedly done. It's hard, isn't it? Because you're a main sports star, now all of a sudden, you're worth millions, probably tens of millions. Oh, well, no, we'll stick someone up, we'll get some money out of him.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean,
this is the place, but it does happen, though, doesn't it?
Well, according to I just hope that it's not true in a way. And but if he has done what he's done, then he's never going to be able to show his face in the sport. I think,
No,
but moving on a bit from that, they're talking about Deontay Wilder is lined up as a shock summer Tyson Fury replacement. Would you want to see Wilder Fury 4?
No, definitely not. That's not something I would pay for. I'd rather go down the pub and watch a punch up down there.
What a waste of time. My view, Tyson Fury won all 3 of them fights. What a total waste of time. I mean, what is it about, Fury's likely to accept that because he knows that, he can beat him. Yeah. He's just battered him 3 times.
I'd like to see Wilder and Joshua.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
But do you think, moving on from that, do you think we're ever going to see Joshua versus Fury?
No, you're more likely to see Joshua Usyk again.
Yeah. But do you know what? I'm going to talk about Anthony Joshua for a minute. Now, I loved watching this guy right till he got clumped by Ruiz. right? Something changed him. Something changed him. That fight, right? Something really changed him. And when you look at what changed him, he wanted to become a boxer, but he ain't. He's a fighter. What do you think?
Yeah. I'll just look back at the fight he had, last fights he had with Usyk, right? Usyk is a very skilled man in the ring, and he proved that over the Joshua. Joshua tried to match him, and he come unstuck. Like you said, he's a brawler, not a boxer.
And he tried, and I tell you what, when he caught Usyk on the lower body shot.
I was just about to mention that we've mentioned this before. When he clocked Usyk with the body shots, Usyk didn't like it, but again, Joshua didn't capitalise on that, and that reminded me of Bruno and Tyson back in the day when Bruno had Tyson in bags of trouble, but lacked the finishing off, like killer instinct. He hasn't got it. Well, that's what I feel with Joshua. He lacked that killer instinct because he didn't stay back in there and hammer that body again, because he clearly was hurting him. I think he thought, I'll go for the knockout. I've got to go for the knockout, and that, but that's not always the way. If you're hurting someone in a particular way, you've got to carry on.
I'll tell you what made me sort of chuckle was he didn't know how he lost to Usyk, and it's quite simple. You tried to box a boxer. You tried to box probably the best pound for pound boxer that there is. I mean, I still, I mean, there's, it goes back to what we were talking about the other day. Is Tank Davis, Gervonta Tank Davis, is he he wants to be known as the face of boxing. How can you say that when you've got Bivol, Alvarez, Errol Spence, Golovkin, Estrada, Usyk, Crawford, Fury? I mean, you got that's a hell of a list of fucking royalty that you've got to, you've got.
Listen, there's some boys up here, and like Tank's here.
Yeah.
Give it time, he will rise up the ranks, but at the moment, he's here. You just got to take that, in perspective. Yeah, I've beaten like Ryan Garcia, who's a well-known fighter. Now, once I've beaten a few more faces in the boxing, then perhaps you could become the face of boxing. But until you've done that and reached that sort of level, what are you saying, And? Do you think I'm right? Or?
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone could really argue with you, really, could they? If we're perfectly honest, I don't think anybody could argue. I mean, yeah, it's. I just think he's got a long way to go before you're sort of knocking on those doors. But
yeah, I just wanted to say something. I was reading up earlier about Floyd Mayweather wants to bring his own belt out.
This is something we were talking about the other day, and I think we'll do another. We'll talk about. Yeah, we'll talk about another fucking another. Yeah, do you want to tell him to get a leather canvas belt or some shit like that? Roll trousers up. I mean, we'll talk about that on the next sort of podcast. But oh no, I can't be biding my time with shit like that. Really? I mean, really?
Yeah, I'm thinking, what else does that man want? He's 50-0. He's won every belt going. He's got so much money he don't know what to do with. Let's bring your own world championship belt out and people can fight over it.
Oh, mate, it's just wrong, isn't it? It's just totally, totally wrong.
It is, but it wouldn't put it past me if it did happen. Because people like that have got a lot of clout.
Well, what can we, what do we deduce from all that? Do you know what I mean? It's just,
yeah.
I mean, I hate the situation with all these governing bodies. I mean, I don't just hate it in a little way. I hate it in a big way. I hate the fact that these fighters all seem to just do as they want. Nobody gives a shit. It's just is what it is. It just, they're sort of ruling it. At least in the UFC, and I understand what Dana White says here. They control what goes on. Do you know what I mean? They control to a certain event. What's going on.
It's one governing body there. You know what I mean? Dictates everything. You know what I mean? It all goes through one person or one source, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think something needs to happen.
You've got so many different board of governors, and they've all got their own different rules. So it's all right, one sort of respect, but ain't right in another one.
Well, that's it. So I think this weekend. I don't think we've got any major boxing bouts coming up. I think a lot of them are on the weekend after, innit? So Joshua Boazzi is on the weekend after that, so that'll be interesting. Light heavyweight against Powell Stepien. That'll be interesting to sort of see. There's a couple of fights coming up, but we can talk about that another time. Anyway, mate, always a pleasure. Well,
yes, definitely.
Guys, if you want to catch us on our next podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are addicted to cash, and it always helps pay the old electric bill. So don't forget that. We got our own clothing range that only we seem to wear at the moment. Our Fighters Talk TV stuff. And how did you get on phoning Matchroom today? You didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks very much for joining us today. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you all soon. Take care.